Oceans cover over 70% of the Earth's surface, playing a critical role in regulating climate, supporting biodiversity, and providing resources for human livelihoods. These vital ecosystems face significant threats from various forms of pollution, including plastic waste, chemical runoff, oil spills, and noise pollution. This essay explores the different types of ocean pollution, their impacts on marine life and ecosystems, and the measures needed to address this pressing issue. Types of ocean pollution. Plastic pollution. Plastic pollution is one of the most pervasive and concerning types of pollution affecting oceans. Millions of tons of plastic waste enter the oceans each year, originating from land-based activities and maritime operations. Plastics are non-biodegradable and can persist in the marine environment for hundreds of years, breaking down into smaller particles known as microplastics. Sources and pathways. Land-based sources. Urban runoff, improper waste disposal, and littering contribute significantly to ocean plastic pollution. Rivers transport plastic debris from inland areas to the sea. Maritime sources, fishing gear, shipping activities, and offshore platforms contribute to plastic pollution. Lost or discarded fishing nets, known as ghost nets, pose significant threats to marine life. Impacts on marine life. Plastic pollution has severe consequences for marine organisms. Marine animals, including fish, birds, and mammals, often ingest plastic debris, mistaking it for food. This ingestion can lead to physical harm, malnutrition, and even death. Additionally, entanglement in plastic debris can cause injuries and hinder movement, feeding, and reproduction. Chemical pollution. Chemical pollutants enter the oceans through agricultural runoff, industrial discharges, and atmospheric deposition. Common chemical pollutants include pesticides, heavy metals, and pharmaceuticals. Agricultural runoff. Agricultural activities are a major source of chemical pollution in oceans. Fertilizers and pesticides used in farming run off into rivers and streams, eventually reaching the ocean. Excessive nutrient input, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus, leads to eutrophication, causing algal blooms and hypoxic conditions detrimental to marine life. Industrial discharges. Industries discharge a range of harmful chemicals into water bodies, including heavy metals like mercury and lead, which can accumulate in marine organisms and biomagnify up the food chain. Industrial pollutants also include persistent organic pollutants (POPs), such as polychlorinated biphenyls (PCBs) and dioxins, which are toxic and cause long-term ecological damage. Oil pollution. Oil spills result from tanker accidents, offshore drilling incidents, and operational discharges from ships. Oil spills have devastating impacts on marine ecosystems, affecting water quality, marine life, and coastal habitats. Effects of oil spills. Marine life. Oil coats the bodies of marine organisms, impairing their ability to regulate temperature, move, and feed. Ingestion of oil-contaminated prey can lead to internal damage and poisoning. Habitat destruction. Coastal habitats, such as mangroves, salt marshes, and coral reefs, are particularly vulnerable to oil spills. Oil smothers vegetation and coral, disrupting the delicate balance of these ecosystems. Economic impact. Oil spills also have significant economic repercussions, affecting fisheries, tourism, and local communities dependent on marine resources. Noise pollution. Noise pollution in oceans arises from human activities such as shipping, military exercises, and seismic surveys. Underwater noise can travel long distances and interfere with the communication, navigation, and hunting abilities of marine animals, particularly cetaceans, whales, and dolphins. Impacts of noise pollution. Marine mammals. Cetaceans rely on echolocation for communication and navigation. Noise pollution can disrupt these processes, leading to disorientation, strandings, and changes in migratory patterns. Fish and invertebrates. Noise pollution can also affect fish and invertebrates, disrupting their behavior, feeding, and reproductive success. Chronic exposure to noise can lead to long-term population declines. Impacts on marine ecosystems. Coral reefs. Coral reefs are among the most biodiverse and productive ecosystems on the planet, but they are highly susceptible to pollution. Chemical pollutants, particularly nutrients from agricultural runoff, can lead to algal overgrowth, smothering corals and reducing light availability. Additionally, plastic debris can physically damage coral structures and introduce pathogens, mangroves, and coastal wetlands. Mangroves and coastal wetlands provide critical ecosystem services, including carbon sequestration, shoreline protection, and habitat for marine species. Pollution, particularly oil spills and chemical runoff, can degrade these habitats, reducing their ability to support biodiversity and protect coastal communities. Open ocean and deep-sea ecosystems. Pollution affects not only coastal areas, but also the open ocean and deep-sea ecosystems. Microplastics have been found in remote areas of the ocean, including the deep sea, where they can be ingested by deep-sea organisms with unknown long-term effects. Chemical pollutants can accumulate in the tissues of deep-sea species, posing risks to these poorly understood ecosystems. Socioeconomic impacts, fisheries, and food security. Pollution has significant implications for fisheries and food security. Contaminants such as heavy metals and POPs can accumulate in seafood, posing health risks to consumers. Additionally, pollution-related habitat degradation can reduce fish populations, affecting the livelihoods of communities that depend on fishing. Tourism and recreation. Marine pollution can deter tourism and recreational activities. Polluted beaches, degraded coral reefs, and oil-contaminated waters are less attractive to tourists, leading to economic losses for coastal communities that rely on tourism revenue. Human health is directly and indirectly affected by ocean pollution. Consumption of contaminated seafood can lead to health issues, including neurological and reproductive disorders. Additionally, pollution can impact the quality of coastal environments, affecting the well-being of communities living near the coast. Solutions and mitigation strategies. Reducing plastic pollution. Policy measures. Governments can implement policies to reduce plastic production and consumption, such as banning single-use plastics and promoting recycling. Waste management. Improving waste management systems can reduce the amount of plastic entering the oceans. This includes better collection, recycling, and disposal of plastic waste. Public awareness. Educating the public about the impacts of plastic pollution and encouraging sustainable consumer behavior can reduce plastic waste. Controlling chemical pollution, regulation and enforcement. Strict regulations on the use and disposal of harmful chemicals can reduce chemical pollution. This includes enforcing limits on industrial discharges and agricultural runoff. Sustainable agriculture. Promoting sustainable farming practices, such as precision agriculture and integrated pest management, can reduce the use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Monitoring and assessment. Regular monitoring of water quality and pollutant levels can help identify pollution sources and assess the effectiveness of mitigation measures. Preventing oil pollution. Stricter regulations. Implementing and enforcing stricter regulations on oil drilling and transportation can prevent oil spills. This includes mandatory safety protocols and response plans. Spill response preparedness. Developing effective oil spill response strategies, including containment and cleanup technologies, can mitigate the impacts of spills. Alternative energy sources. Reducing dependence on fossil fuels by promoting renewable energy sources can decrease the risk of oil pollution. Mitigating noise pollution. Shipping regulations. Implementing regulations to reduce noise from shipping, such as speed limits and quieter ship designs, can mitigate noise pollution. Marine protected areas. Establishing marine protected areas where noise-generating activities are restricted can provide refuges for noise-sensitive species. Research and monitoring. Conducting research on the impacts of noise pollution and monitoring noise levels can inform management strategies and reduce harmful effects. International cooperation and governance. Addressing ocean pollution requires coordinated international efforts and effective governance. Key international agreements and initiatives include The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and UNCLOS, UNCLOS provides a legal framework for the protection and sustainable use of the oceans, including measures to prevent and reduce pollution. The International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships MARPOL aims to minimize pollution from ships by setting standards for the discharge of oil, chemicals, sewage, garbage, and air pollution from ships. The Global Program of Action for the Protection of the Marine Environment from Land-Based Activities (GPA). The GPA addresses land-based sources of marine pollution, encouraging countries to implement national action plans to reduce pollutants entering the ocean from land. Regional and national initiatives, regional seas conventions. Various regional seas conventions, such as the Mediterranean Action Plan and the Baltic Sea Action Plan, aim to protect specific marine regions through cooperative efforts among neighboring countries. National policies and programs. Individual countries can implement policies and programs to address ocean pollution, such as the United States National Ocean Policy and the European Union's Marine Strategy Framework Directive. Non-governmental organizations, NGOs. NGOs play a vital role in addressing ocean pollution through advocacy, research, and on-the-ground initiatives. Organizations like Greenpeace, the Ocean Conservancy, and the World Wildlife Fund work to raise awareness, influence policy, and implement cleanup and conservation projects. Conclusion: the effects of pollution on oceans are profound and far-reaching, impacting marine life, ecosystems, and human societies. Addressing this complex issue requires a multifaceted approach, including reducing plastic and chemical pollution, preventing oil spills, mitigating noise pollution, and enhancing international cooperation and governance. By implementing effective policies, promoting sustainable practices, and fostering global collaboration, we can protect the health and integrity of our oceans for future generations.